Hi, everybody. Tommy Clayton, middle school OpenSciEd teacher and lesson writer. Today, we're going to take a look at lesson 11. This is from unit 8.2, where students are trying to figure out how sound can make something move. This is a really cool lesson. It's kind of the moment that students get to really put everything together and try to explain how sound can make something move by looking at a related phenomena. So there's some moving parts to this. And we're going to help get you through and help focus students on one big thing that we sort of haven't totally explained yet. And so to do that, we're going to take a little bit of a look at how we got here. We're going to take a look at this lesson at a glance. We'll dive into some key moments, and we'll leave you with some tips and tricks for this lesson. So let's dive in. All right, let's remind ourselves how we got here. So in the last lesson, we actually figured out what a sound wave is. And so this is where we put together that it's like this repeating pattern. And that pattern is specific to the things we've been figuring out, like frequency and amplitude. And we introduced that new word, wavelength. And we figured out that a sound wave is really like energy, right? Energy is what's moving across the medium. And it's this chain reaction of particles. And so now we got to like put it all together. And we're really wondering in this lesson, like, how does it actually make something move? Right. So we've dealt with like what's happening at the beginning of the sound wave. We figured out what's happening in the middle. And now it's like about that end part as we kind of put all the pieces together. So let's take a look at this lesson at a glance. This is a putting the pieces together lesson, right? So we're going to put a lot of things together in this lesson, have some really great aha moments. This is 2 days. Take about 10 minutes to get set up. There is a teacher demonstration that we're going to talk through, but there are no other hands-on investigations. Students do not really need devices for this. It depends how they're going to do the modeling. We can talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And there are no additional related videos. Okay, so let's take a look at how this lesson breaks down. So in the first day, we have this first big chunk where we navigate in. We're introduced to this related phenomena of bouncing salt, and we develop gotta have a checklist to like explain that. And then that helps us to set the stage for the modeling. And so in this chunk, we see that every time we hit the drum, this salt sort of bounces around, even though the drum is not touching the salt or the bowl in any way. And then that sets us up for this next chunk where we're actually going to develop a model. And what we figure out is like we need a lot of our science ideas to explain this phenomenon. So this second chunk sort of will carry us over into the second day. There's 15 minutes there for kids to develop the model. But on day 2, we're going to sort of carry that chunk over. We're going to finish sort of modeling that salt and get ready for a gallery tour where we can see other students' models. And then we're going to have a discussion about, in general, like how does sound make things move? And then we have this last chunk to help us get set for explaining our original phenomenon. Okay, so ultimately in that first chunk, we figure out that like when we hit the drum, that disturbs the medium, and there's this like chain reaction all the way to the salt. And when we put it all together, we figure out that like in general, things move due to sound because of this chain reaction, right? And so it's the sound maker hitting the first row of things and that continuing all the way down till the last row of particles hits the actual thing that we observe moving. So the first day, really all we are getting a sense of is like the phenomena. And that's like we see the salt move every time the drum is hit. And then on day 2, that's really like where we put it all together. And we figure out that the way sound makes things move is this like chain reaction of collisions that's actually happening. Okay, let's take a look at some of the key moments. So we navigate into the lesson and we remind ourselves a little bit about some related phenomena. And then we introduce this related phenomena live in the class. And so you're going to take a drum of some kind and there's a bowl with some saran wrap stretched over it with some salt on top. And you're going to sort of hit the drum a bunch of times near the bowl of salt, not directly touching it. And students are going to observe that the salt moves every time there's a sound, right? And if you hit the drum pretty hard, you can really make that salt move a lot. So then students are going to model this bouncing salt, right? And so in part 3, they've set up a gotta have it checklist. They're actually going to use that gotta have it checklist here in part 4 to develop the models. And you're going to get a wide range of models as they work in groups of 3 to 4. And you're going to want to support them in keeping track of the ideas that they have used from that gotta have it checklist. And if they discover that they're adding new ideas on their model that are maybe aren't on their list, like they thought of something, that's a time for them to go back and update that list. So day 1 ends with them doing that modeling. They come back, they get the chance to do a gallery walk, see other models, give each other some feedback. And then that leads us to part 7 on day 2, where we really come together to explain like how sound can actually make things move, right? And we're thinking about all the ideas we need to be able to explain that. And so what you're going to do during that gallery tour that happens just before this is you're going to pick a couple of models to highlight during this consensus discussion, right? Be like, oh yeah, Tommy and group, I saw something really cool on your model where you modeled like the force. Can you show us more about that, right? This is where you're starting to pick some of those key ideas that you want to draw out to help develop this list that students are going to use in the next part when they're explaining the original phenomenon. Okay, so after students develop that list, they use it to explain the truck and the speaker, and that's the end of this lesson. And so where we go in the next lesson is we have some wonderings and some stuff on our question board about people's ears. We've been wondering, like, what's actually happening? Like, how does your ear work? And so now that we know how sound can make something move, we want to know more about like what's happening inside people's ears. So we're going to investigate that. We're going to look at the structure of ears. We're going to see some videos, some simulations, and do some reading to figure out more about what's actually happening in people's ears when they're hearing a sound. Okay, let's talk about some tips and tricks for this lesson. So in part 2, when you're doing that demo, glass bowls seem to work the best, mostly because for whatever reason, the saran wrap sticks best to a glass bowl. So you can pull it really tight. You get some really good results. If you don't have a glass bowl and you're using a metal bowl or a plastic bowl and you notice that the saran wrap is slipping a little bit, you can try putting a rubber band, sliding it over, and really helping to keep that plastic wrap on. You may even try some tape or something like that to hold that plastic wrap. You need the plastic wrap really tight to see that salt bounce and move, okay? If you don't have access to a drum, I found that you can go down to the band teacher and typically borrow a drum. And from personal experience, I've learned it's best to warn the teachers around you that you are going to do some drum playing, especially the math teachers. They seem to really not like drums during the math lesson. So be sure to just let everybody know around you that you're going to be hitting some drums during this lesson. Okay, now in part 3, after the students have seen that, they're gonna be asked to develop a gotta have it checklist. The first time I did this, I made the mistake of going too far and too deep here. I didn't realize there was a second pass on the second day. So this is a first pass. You don't need to spend a lot of time here. The kids are just going to jot down the ideas and you're going to let them run with it. This is an opportunity for you to assess where they are at, okay? So we don't need the complete, full gotta have it checklist here. Let them sort of come up with the ideas, share them out, and then move on, okay? Because you're going to come back to this in the second part and really firm it up after everybody gets to look at their models. So it's okay if they forget a couple ideas on here, totally fine. If you do decide to do this as a larger class, just let the kids lead it. Again, you really just want to see where they're at. It's going to help you to inform what you do next in the second day, as well as what you do in future lessons. Okay, now, when the students are actually modeling this together in their groups and they're using that gotta have a checklist that they developed, they're going to be really focused on the first part, which is like the force and the vibrating thing, because we've done a lot of work around that and we really understand it. We already have good models of it. The medium part is sort of new, but because we've seen it in the simulation, we usually do pretty well here. Where we run into trouble is this last part. How does it actually make something move? This is where the models always get a little fuzzy and where the students are like not quite sure exactly how the salt is moving, right? Because we haven't directly made that connection yet. Remember, in the last lesson, we saw the sound wave, but we were really focused on the medium, not the end when that last bit hits, right? So really press them to lean into that on their model, be looking for that. Ask them like, well, how is it actually making the salt move? How does your model show that? Okay. And you may want to have the simulation ready to project. And like what I used to do is put a sticky note at the very end of it and be like, okay, so imagine that's an object. Like what would happen? Right. And then kids are like, oh, that last row like hits the thing. Okay. And you want to be ready here to return to some of the previous class models, like from the first lesson set where we did the work with the vibrating drum or the guitar string or whatever the case may be. Okay, no new words to introduce. Huzzah. And in this lesson, you are going to have that gotta have it checklist that you develop together on that second day. I recommend hanging on to this. You're going to want to use it probably in lesson 13, lesson 14, when students are putting things back together again. You may want to have access to the previous consensus models in this lesson. It is helpful for students to return to those and look back at them. And that's going to do it for lesson 11. I think you're really going to enjoy seeing students' models and like putting it all together and sort of having that aha moment once they realize how sound can actually make something move. Come back and join us for lesson 12. That's where we're going to find out more about what's actually happening in people's ears so they can hear certain sounds. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.